Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, three of the wealthiest men on the planet, have mastered the art of growing their fortunes while paying less in taxes than their secretaries. While most people grind through tax season, these billionaires watch their wealth multiply, using smart tax strategies and trust funds to shield their fortunes in almost magical ways. These strategies aren't hidden. Want to know their secrets? Well, stick around, because Refined Society is about to show you how the rich stay rich and how you can start thinking like them. Warren Buffett, often called the Oracle of Omaha, started his journey as a young investor, buying his first stock at the age of 11. He grew that early passion into a fortune worth over $100 billion today, largely through his company, Berkshire Hathaway, which he transformed into one of the world's largest investment firms. He didn't do it by taking wild risks, but by being patient, smart, and letting his investments grow over time. But the way this man handles taxes is like mastering a maze only he knows the shortcuts to. For most people, taxes are straightforward. You earn a salary, the government takes a chunk, and you get what's left. But Buffett doesn't earn money through regular income like most people do. Instead, he makes his fortune through investment. And that's where the game changes. Let's break it down. When you earn a salary, say $100,000 a year, you'll likely pay about 25 to 30% of that in taxes, depending on where you live. So you end up handing over around $25,000 to the government. But Buffett doesn't operate like that. His money comes from stocks, dividends, and company profits. These types of income are taxed at much lower rates, typically around 15 to 20% in the US. But rather than selling his stocks and taking profits, which would trigger taxes, Buffett holds onto his investments for the long haul. This means he's not taxed on any of the gains in his portfolio until he decides to sell them, which might be years or even decades later. The result, while his wealth grows, his tax bill remains minimal. Let's say Buffett's investment portfolio grows by $10 billion in 1 year to give you an idea of how big this difference is. If he were to sell those stocks, he might owe $2 billion in taxes. But since he keeps his wealth in those investments and avoids selling, his taxable income stays low, and the government doesn't get a piece of it. On top of that, Buffett uses trust funds to protect his wealth and ensure it's passed down efficiently. By placing significant portions of his fortune into charitable trusts, Buffett not only secures his legacy, but also avoids heavy taxes. Trust funds allow him to control how and when his wealth is distributed, minimizing tax exposure and ensuring his fortune grows safely. Buffett also uses charitable donations to further reduce his taxable income. He's pledged to give away over 99% of his wealth, mainly to causes like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In the US, donations reduce taxable income, so when Buffett gives away $3 billion a year, that money no longer counts towards taxes. It's a smart strategy to keep his tax bill light while doing good. Buffett has even publicly admitted that he pays a lower tax rate than his secretary. How is that even possible? If his secretary earns $60,000 a year, a tax rate might be around 25%, meaning she pays $15,000 in taxes. Meanwhile, Buffett with his billions has most of his income coming through investments taxed at around 15% and on a smaller portion of his wealth. So, as a percentage, he ends up paying far less in taxes than someone making a fraction of what he earns. Now, if you think Warren Buffett's approach is smart, just wait until you see how Jeff Bezos runs his business. The founder of Amazon and one of the wealthiest people on the planet has taken tax efficiency to a whole new level. His wealth reached dizzying heights, peaked at over $200 billion, yet his tax payments have often been shockingly low. Unlike Buffett, who focuses on long-term investments, Bezos plays a different game. He built Amazon into a global empire. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite Amazon's massive success, there were years when the company paid zero in federal income taxes. Bezos took advantage of the US tax code, which allows companies to reinvest their profits into growth and innovation. And here's the genius part. Those reinvestments reduce the company's taxable income. Let's break it down with some numbers. Imagine Amazon makes $10 billion in profit in 1 year. Normally, you'd expect them to owe a hefty tax sum, right? But instead of paying taxes on that profit, Amazon reinvests the bulk of it back into the business, building warehouses, improving technology, and expanding its workforce. By doing this, Amazon reports much lower taxable income and in some years, none at all. This reinvestment strategy allows Bezos to do two things: grow his company at lightning speed and keep the IRS at bay. Instead of a huge salary, Bezos took a modest $81,000 yearly, far less than you expect for a billionaire. His real wealth came from stock options, which allowed him to buy Amazon shares at a lower price. As Amazon's value soared, so did its wealth. And the best part, no taxes are due until he sells those shares, letting his fortune grow while the tax bill stays untouched. Let's say Bezos was given stock options worth $1 billion. As Amazon stock soared, those options could grow to $5 billion. And while that wealth grows, Bezos doesn't owe any taxes on it until he decides to sell. It's like sitting on a gold mine without paying until you dig it up. When Bezos does sell shares, he uses smart financial tools like trust funds to keep his tax bill low. Trust funds allow him to set aside large chunks of his wealth, keeping it safe and protected for his heirs. Now, one type of trust he might use is a generation-skipping trust, which passes wealth directly to his grandchildren, avoiding heavy estate taxes. This means Bezos can grow his fortune and pass it down without the government taking a big piece. By using these trusts, Bezos controls how his wealth is passed on while minimizing taxes. On top of that, like Buffett, Bezos donates billions to causes he supports, which also gives him big tax deductions. In 2020, he pledged $10 billion to fight climate change, benefiting both the planet and his wallet. Now, we've seen Buffett's patience and Bezos' reinvestment tactics. Now, let's look at someone who operates on an entirely different level. This man launches rockets and builds electric cars, all while having a fortune that towers over others. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, according to Forbes, with a net worth of $250 billion. While Buffett builds wealth by holding investments and Bezos reinvests profits, Musk's fortune is tied directly to Tesla's performance, like his paycheck depends on hitting home runs. Instead of taking a big salary, Musk's compensation comes almost entirely from stock options. In 2023, these options were valued at over $25 billion. If Tesla's stock is worth $1,000 on the market and Musk gets to buy it at $350, that's a $650 profit per share. His strategy? Hold on to those shares and no taxes are owed until he sells. So, as Tesla's value climbs, Musk's wealth grows with it. Now, here's where Musk's approach gets even riskier. Unlike Buffett and Bezos, Musk only gets paid when Tesla hits specific milestones. For instance, if Tesla stock hits a set target or the company reaches a sales goal, Musk earns another set of stock options. This all-or-nothing approach adds some instability, but it also brings massive rewards when Tesla succeeds. Beyond stock options, Musk uses irrevocable trust funds to protect his wealth. These trust funds are like a locked vault. Once you put your assets inside, they're protected, and the terms can't be easily changed. Musk sets aside portions of his fortune in these trusts to make sure his wealth stays safe from heavy taxes and that his family can access it down the line. It's a way to secure his fortune for the future while keeping the taxman at arm's length. And there you have it. 3 billionaires, each with their playbook for building wealth and managing their taxes, fortunes, and trust funds. They're not the only ones. Plenty of the world's elite are out there avoiding taxes and growing their fortunes. Who knows? Follow their steps and one day you might do the same. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe to Refined Society for deeper dives into wealth, luxury, and success. See you next time.